Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome to this episode of How to Build Threads from Scratch. In today's episode, we're going to go over authentication and more specifically text authentication. So if you go to the app, you put in your phone number, you'll get a text message with a 6-digit code and it will automatically add it into the input and then you go log in. This is definitely the least amount of clicks. I think the best way for login for mobile, because you're going to get the phone number. You're going to get the message on the phone that you're on versus like a website or having to switch to an email browser or email client. The biggest downside though is that it does cost money. So every single time you send a text, it does cost a couple cents. But since this is a social media app, we can create like long session times. So really we could have them use their phone number to authenticate the first time. And then maybe you could set a sessions to either a week, a month, or a couple of months. So you don't have to keep on asking them to verify their phone number and then log in. One thing I do really like about it with social media app is that it prevents bots. So it's a lot easier to create a bot with an unlimited amount of emails. Not everyone has an unlimited amount of phone numbers to use. So I also like it for that as well. So first thing we're going to do is actually go create a auth provider. So I created a basic layout of a provider here. And what a provider is, let's go actually to layout real quick to explain what a provider is. A provider is basically, you could think of a global state object that you have access to all of the children pages. So let's use this Gluestack UI provider as an example. This is a custom one from Gluestack so that all of the child components, so all the stack screens here, have access to the Gluestack components, whether it be a button or a text or any of the functionality is showing modal, high modal, whatever it may be. Everything in the child item has access to that. So we want to create our own provider so that when someone logs in, we have access to that user throughout the app. So when they like a post, we know who's liking it. We can use that user ID. If they're posting, if they're commenting, if they're reposting, you don't have to call Supabase auth every single time to get that user information and to make sure they're still logged in. And so to do that, we're going to create an auth provider, and we're going to import it. And right now our auth provider doesn't, why is this not being used? Right now our auth provider doesn't do anything. So let's go back here. I put the structure of a very basic provider. We have importing React. We're creating a context from this auth provider. And then we could use context and turn this into a function so that we could use this just like a hook in any of our sub pages. So as an example, we could just do const set user, just like a regular React.state, and then pass in user and set user. And then also we have to define it here as well. So user, so it's just going to be an empty object and a function that doesn't really do anything just yet. But let's do that. And then we're going to go into our auth page and we're going to import it. So const user and set user. And then let's say React use effect on load. Oh, we need to import React. On load, we want to set the user to John Doe. And then we want to display that hello user dot. So you want to do an optional here because we don't have default state yet. So this is going to be empty on load. And if we reload, it doesn't show, of course not. Let's make sure everything's saved. We're passing down user. There's actually one more thing we want to do as well. So we want to, there we go, John Doe. Just needs to be reset. We also want to do initial, now that I'm here, initial route as an auth route. So we make sure it always gets loaded. Right now it's random. Okay, so now we have hello John Doe. But we want to replace this functionality because this is not like really what we want to do. We want to replace it with a sign-in function. So let's remove that. And let's create handle sign-in. And we don't need that. and we're going to put in input. So this is going to be the first page where they put in their phone number and we send the text verification. So what we want to do is input. And notice it's yelling at us. So typically a component would look like this. And phone doesn't exist. And it shows the actual component, but if I try to click on it, I can't like type anything. And that's because this is importing from Gluestack and not just React Native. And Gluestack has a different format. So if we go to the Gluestack documentation, I kind of just always had this up when I started working with Gluestack. And we can see we have a regular input, but then inside of that we have an input field. So that's what we actually need. So we need to wrap our input in an input field, or we need to wrap our input field in an input. And then we also need to import it. And let's do the same, like value phone, on change text, set phone, and then reload. And now we can type in. So keep in mind that it does take some getting used to at first, the Gluestack formatting, because it is named the same way you would name like components from React Native. And so even Cursor or GitHub Copilot doesn't always know how to import. So like, let's say it's suggesting button on press handle sign in. This would typically be right. So now it's trying to import from React Native and we're getting an error. And why are we getting an error? Title prop must be a string. Okay. So that's because it's a React Native component. But let's say we do import button from, let's remove it from React Native, from UI button. And you're going to get this message that isn't really clear. I did this at first and I was a little confused because it's yelling at you, text strings must be rendered within a text component. And then it's saying load async, there's something wrong with your font hook. And that's not actually the issue. So if we go back to Gluestack and we put in button, it's the same thing. We have a button component that looks just like a React Native component, but inside we have button text. So if we were to just put in this button text here, and put sign in, and then import it, then it works just fine. So just keep that in mind. And then if we log, so let's see, whatever we put in here, sign in. But we want to make sure, we want to change this input. So like we could see if you do Command K, it'll show the text, it'll show the keyboard. But then if you type on your computer, it'll disappear the keyboard, and to get it back, you have to put Command K. But see how it's a regular alphabet keyboard. So we want to change it to keyboard type of a phone pad. So if we were to do that again, now the phone pad comes up. So there we go. And we also want to do secure entry true. Put the phone number. Okay. So now we have our phone number, handle sign in, set user. That's not what we want just yet. Setting user. Actually, set user isn't even going to be used here at all. So what we want to do now is we want to enable the text verification in Supabase. And the way you do that is if you go here, you go to authentication, auth providers. On default, email will be enabled. I just disabled that because we're not using that. And you want to do is enable the phone. And then if you click SMS provider, there's a bunch of different options. There's Twilio, MessageBird, Text Local Advantage, and Twilio Verify. Now, in this case, we just want to use Twilio Verify because we're not going to be sending regular Twilios typically used for like sending marketing messages or anything. We're not going to be doing that. We just want to verify that this person has this phone number. And the way you could do that is creating an account with Verify API. And they'll give you actually $15 for free of verification code sends. And all you have to do is verify your phone number, and it's a good way to test. Another way to test is we could just put in a test phone number and OTP. So here we put 1-555-555-555-555, whatever, equals, and then this is the OTP code 123456. And this is valid until November 29th. So we could use that actually for right now. And then what we want to do is go to the documentation, and we want to do sign in OTP with I figured the OTP. Oh, sign in with OTP. Okay. So here we have a couple different options: sign in with email, sign in with SMS OTP, and sign in with WhatsApp OTP. I'm curious if sign in with WhatsApp OTP actually needs the same SMS verification payment as regular SMS, because it is two different options. It's an app instead. But in this, anyway, we're going to use a sign in with SMS OTP. And all it does is supabase.auth sign in with OTP. And we're going to copy and paste this and put it here. Turn this into an async function, import Supabase. And all we're going to do is log the response. And instead of one blah, 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 we're going to do phone number. And remember, we need the country code for this. So this is just the US country code and then the phone number that we're going to input. We're going to click save. So on input change, we're going to change the local state, and then we're going to pass that into sign in with OTP, and then we're going to log that response. So 555, 555, 5555. Click sign in. We have 555, message ID, test OTP, session is null. So the session is null, and then also the error is null. So we don't have the information we need. We have no user, we have no session, but there's also no error. And that's because we're not actually signed in yet. This is just sending the text message. We still need to verify that code, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that we set here, in to verify that this number exists. And so what we need to do that is, let's search for verify. Yeah, there we go. This one worked this time. Verify sign up one-time password, verify SMS one-time password, and then verify email auth. So we want to do verify SMS one-time password. And actually what we want to do is, if there's no error, we want to let's import use router, and then create a router, and then remember it has the brackets. So this autocomplete is pretty great sometimes, but then sometimes it also doesn't know where it's going. It should have found that this needs the brackets and not just, but it does find the right page, or actually it doesn't find the right page, but it does just find the next page that exists. So we have the username page, but how the flow goes is this first page index is putting in the phone number. The next one needs to be a verify page, which doesn't exist yet, where you put in the code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if that user already exists, it'll just push them to the main page. If they don't exist, then they need to create a username. And that's actually going to be the next video, because the username doesn't exist on a native like Supabase user. So we're going to create a new table. So that's going to be the next one. But for right now, we want to add a new page called verify.tsx. And let's just copy and paste this. Let's import React. It's pretty ugly right now, but for now, we're just going to copy this same inputs, and then button, text. Actually, let's just do text so we know that's the right page. And then we want to do token, set token, replace this, handle verify, and then we want to create another function to verify the token. Okay, so let's test this out without sending another code. So if error, so we're logging the phone number. If there's no error, then push to verify. Okay, there we go. And its TypeScript is yelling at us because that page doesn't exist here yet. So I'm going to do verify.tsx. Copy and paste this and rename verify. verify. Okay. If we go back, it shouldn't be yelling at us anymore. There we go. And so that goes to verify this page. So this is, once we get to this page, we need to be able to handle a token. But we also need the phone number. So we don't have the phone number in a either set it in global state, or we could just pass it as a param. So we could do path name, params, phone, and then pass in the phone number that we just used. So I actually want to use this phone number. So we want to make sure we have that country code because that's going to be the full phone number. And so then on verify, we could do const params. So then we have the token input, we have the phone number, well, that'd be a phone. And then we need to do verify. Okay, so phone pad, true. So now we need to verify. So we want to copy and paste this verify function into here. We need to import Supabase. And then phone number. As a string. And then pass in the token that we're going to push in. And then this one we want to do console log data and error. Okay. Let's try this. Okay, so now we're on the index page. We put in our phone number, 555-555-5555. Sign in. There's no error. And it goes to the verify page. This weird formatting is probably because I needed to restart. Oh, nope, it's because I didn't define it. Stack.screen. Verify. Okay, let's try this again. 555-555-5555. Sign in. Okay, there we go. That page worked that time. So we're on the verify page. We should have the phone number passed in through params. And then we need to put in the token of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Click verify. And there we go. So we could see now this session has an access token, which we're going to use to call other Supabase functionality. So what we could do after this is, in the next episode, we want to actually check to see if this person also has a row in the users table, which doesn't quite exist yet. And if they don't, then we want to push them to the username page to create that row with this new information. Because all we really need is, we don't really even need to store the phone number. We're just using it for verification purposes. All we need is the username, because that's how they'll respond to messages. And so that's why we're going to create a new table. But we have all the functionality we have right now. So we have login, sign in with OTP, router.push, and all this we probably want to pass into our auth provider. So let's say they were to sign in, they already have a user. We also want to create more functionality to save that user up here instead of just going through the steps to sign in. So that's what we're going to do in the next episode. We're going to pass this sign up information. Once we actually have a user object and a user table, we're going to save that into the auth provider so that we can then use it throughout the app. So hope you join me for the next episode, and peace.